Good evening. It was one of his 5 big pre-election pledges, stopping the small boats. And today the Prime Minister was in Dover explaining exactly how it would work. He met with Border Force officials and saw for himself the boats impounded after being seized.
His plans for the migrants in the boats, though, came up against opposition from Labour, the human rights lawyers, from migrant charities and unions. And in Dover town itself this afternoon, many people told us they didn't think the scheme would work. So what is the detail?
Any asylum claims from those who travel here in small boats will be inadmissible, in other words, rejected. All migrants who arrive in Britain without permission will be removed, with very few exceptions.
A lifetime ban on settlement and re-entry to the UK for those removed under the new scheme, and an annual cap on the number of people entering via safe routes will be set by Parliament. So, what's been the reaction and what happens next? Well, in a moment we'll hear from our political correspondent, Phil Hornby. But first, to Dover and Joe Caution. Joe, have there been more small boat crossings today?
Well, it's been another bitterly cold day here in Dover. Temperatures are expected to plummet below freezing tonight, but the winds are relatively calm, making conditions what you would call optimal for making that journey. Now, there's a time lag on reporting the number of migrants crossing the channel, so we won't hear today's figures until tomorrow. But yesterday, when conditions were almost identical, nearly 200 people risked their lives to reach these shores in 5 small boats. Now, when the plans to send people to Rwanda was first announced, there was a sense of urgency among smuggling gangs who upped the ante and sent more boats here in anticipation of that policy. That didn't work as a deterrent, and as Rishi Sunak visited Dover today, there's still question marks over whether his attempts to tackle this crisis will work either.
We just try and integrate all of you guys together to make sure that with NCA, Border Force.
We've seen this one before. A Prime Minister in Dover to say he'll stop the small boats. Rishi Sunak hopes his new migration legislation will, in his words, take back control of our borders once and for all. We've heard that one before as well. His plans were warmly welcomed, though, by Border Force staff. What about those living in the town?
That's not going to deter them, sending them straight back. And where is he going to send them? Because we know we're not allowed to send them to Rwanda because the courts have stopped it. And I would imagine the courts will stop him doing this anyhow.
I think there should be somewhere in France, on their mainland, where we process them, to be honest. And I don't think it's going to put them off.
I think we should start actually with the countries themselves and work on those countries so that they're a decent place to live in, so these people, poor devils, can't be wandering around trying to get out somewhere else.
The illegal migration bill includes a duty to arrest and remove nearly all who arrive in Britain without permission, overriding their right to claim asylum. Only under 18s, those deemed medically unfit to fly, and those at real risk if they are returned to the country they left, will be able to appeal.
Some really robust legislation that's been brought into Parliament as part of a package of measures to stop the small boats. And absolutely vital to that will be the upcoming summit with President Macron on Friday. I'm really hoping that that will see some fresh action on the French side to stop the boats leaving in the first place, as well as this new legislation, which is about more effective returns.
Do you honestly believe things will be different this time?
It's absolutely vital that we bring an end to the small boats crossings. I mean, it's dangerous. We've had lots of lives. I think that it's absolutely right that we have every tool in the toolbox available. And I think what we're seeing is the government looking at every single measure.
There are concerns, though, this will leave the government tied up in legal battles with human rights campaigners, who have warned it'll leave thousands of people detained indefinitely, waiting to be deported.
Close to a quote from Suella saying that she was planning to bend international law as much as she could. What a terrifying thing. You know, these human rights laws are in place for a reason, and if we start chipping away at them, where does it end?
The Prime Minister insists this time will be different. Ignoring the political capital at stake, charities say it has to be, warning that every crossing is risking another tragedy on our shores, like the ones we've seen before, but don't want to see again.
But the big question, Joe, how will it impact Dover?
Well, Andrew, there'll be lots of tests for the effectiveness of the government's plans and how it goes down with voters in towns like Folkestone, Hastings and here in Dover. And of course, the success of this policy will be visible over the coming days by looking at how many boats continue to cross the sea and reach these shores in the longer, brighter days to come this year.